Section 7.1 to 7.5. This section is the final section in the Grade 5 Music Theory exam, and there are 5 subsections, in which you will be asked questions relating to a short piece of music. All the questions here involve knowledge that you have already learned, and it's more about putting this knowledge into real use in the context of an actual piece of music. And here's question 7.1. Compare the following bars to the right-hand part of bar 4 of the melody, then take the one correct statement. This question is similar to the one that we have already done in an earlier video, in which we compare the notes across different clefs. In bar 4 of the music, the A is just about 2 octaves from the middle C. And in option A, the first note, which is an A in this case, is also just about 2 octaves from the middle C. And following the same logic, let's find out where the other middle Cs are. In option B, the first note actually lies below the middle C, whereas in option C, the first note A lies just above the middle C within an octave. In other words, the right-hand part of bar 4 of the music is exactly as the same as the music in option A because they are written at exactly the same pitch, and therefore the answer is this. The key to answering this kind of question is to always figure out where the middle Cs are across the different clefs, and if you need any revision, I would recommend that you go back to the relevant video where we have already talked about it in more detail. Question 7.2. Circle true or false for each of the following 5 statements about the melody. This question requires us to look into the music carefully. Now let's tackle these statements one by one. A. The note in bar 5 of the music should be played smoothly. Is it true or false? The answer is true, and this is evident in the articulation mark. All the notes in this bar is slurred, and that means we need to play these notes in a smooth way. Statement B. The first 4 notes in bar 3 form the supertonic chord in C major. Now let's think about C major and a supertonic chord. A supertonic chord is the second chord in C major, and that means the chord consists of the notes D, F, A. Now let's look at the first 4 notes in bar 3. Are they D, F, A? Unfortunately, no, and so the answer is false. Statement C. The largest melodic interval in the right-hand part of bar 5 is a perfect fourth. A melodic interval is basically the interval between 2 notes in the melody. So now let's look at the right-hand part of bar 5. There are 2 large intervals here. The first one is G and C, and this is a perfect fourth. And then we have the C and F, which is also a perfect fourth. So in this case, the statement is true because that's the largest interval in this very bar. If you need any revision on the concept of interval, then remember to check out our earlier video. Statement D. The lowest note in the music is a C. And now let's go through the music here. And let's focus on the left hand, because that usually plays the lower notes. The music begins in treble clef, even for the left hand, and then it changes to the bass clef in bar 3. And there we start with an E. And let's scan through the remaining music from here on. At the moment we have the lowest note being the E. Is there any other notes that follows are lower than that? Well, there actually is, and that appears in the last bar, the low B there. In other words, the statement is false, because the lowest note in the music is a B, but not a C. Lastly, statement E. The music gets quieter in bar 6. Let's look at bar 6 of the music. We can see that there's a forte sign there, which means louder. And this means the statement is false because the music doesn't get quieter. Instead, it actually gets louder. Question 7.3. Which instrument is best suited to play the right-hand phrase in bar 2 marked with the bracket so that it sounds at the same pitch? Take one box. we have the choices of viola, bassoon, oboe, and double bass. Now the bracketed bar is played in treble clef, and if you remember in our previous video where we talked about the instruments, you should remember which of these instruments would be suitable. The right hand part of the melody is played in a treble clef, and because viola uses the alto clef, bassoon uses the bass clef, and the double bass uses the bass clef, that leaves us with the oboe, which uses the treble clef, and that matches with the actual music here. And therefore the answer is the oboe, which is a treble instrument. Question 7.4. How many times does the submediant note in the key of C appear in the left hand part? Tick one box. Now let's figure out what is a submediant note in the key of C. It means the sixth note from the C note. So if the first note is a C, the second note is a D, the third being the E, the fourth is the F, fifth is the G, and A is the sixth, which is the submediant note. So now let's count how many times does the note A appear in the left hand part. So from the first bar, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then in the second bar, 5, 6, 7, 8, and the third bar, 9, the fourth bar, 10, the fifth bar, 11, and there's no more A in the last bar, and therefore the answer is 11. If you have forgotten these scale degree names, such as the submediant, feel free to go back to our previous video where we talked about this in more detail. And here comes the last question, 7.5. Complete the following two sentences by adding a number to each. Sentence A. Bar 3 has the same rhythm as bar something. Let's look at bar 3 in the music. In terms of the rhythm, it's all semi-quavers, and this matches exactly the rhythm of bar 5 in this case, even though they have different articulations. In bar 3 it's staccato, in bar 5 is slurred, but the rhythm remains the same, and therefore the answer is bar 5. Sentence B. There is a turn in bar something. If you remember how turn looks like as an ornament, you should quite quickly see that there's actually a turn in bar 1, and that's the answer. And this is it. You have just finished the Grade 5 Music Theory course. Congratulations! If you're looking for some more practice, I'll highly recommend that you visit this interactive site where I've put together a lot of practice tests and mock papers with instant feedback. In the drill mode, you have access to all the questions section by section, so that you can focus on specific question types and practice them until you feel confident. There are virtually unlimited questions. In the exam mode, you have access to full papers in the exact format of the exam with randomized questions each time. You have 2 hours to finish the complete paper, at the end of which you'll be given your score and feedback.